Hello, everyone. It's Graham Coath here again with another My Music. In a minute, I'm going to be speaking to David from London Plane. I wonder where that plane has come from and where it is going. That's what I want to know. But we'll find out when we speak to him just after this.
I need to get going, Mel. See you later.
Thanks for joining me, David. Good afternoon to you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, I've just found on my desk my Shed 7 ticket. There we go. That's nice. I wondered what I'd done with that. Who was the last band that you went to see?
Actually, I saw Sparks here in New York in Times Square, I think just last month.
Cool.
They still got it.
Yeah, they still got it. They've had it a long time, haven't they?
Brilliant, really. And I think more success recently than I think they've ever had, which is good. I hope that means that there's more coming from them. The last few albums have been really brilliant.
I imagine so. Yeah, they've really sort of reached a sort of creative. They've enveloped themselves in creativity of late, which is always good when an artist gets that. It was. I mean, it's like everything. They had a little bit of fame thrust upon them in the early days, and that that can knock the old senses for a little bit. But I think that they're doing themselves proud now, so that's wonderful. So just before we came on, you were saying, which is quite unusual, because most of the artists that have come on say, yeah, I either grew up in a musical family, or I always thought I was going to be a musician, that sort of thing. But you said when I asked you the question that you don't necessarily think you are a musician yet. So it's a journey which you're on.
Yeah.
But it's a progression. Yeah.
Yeah. I would consider myself a songwriter. I think I finally, after 15 or 20 years of trying that, I think I finally figured out how to write a pretty decent song. But I surround myself with musicians. London Plane is full of musicians. I'm just not one of them.
I get this so much. What is it then that defines a musician?
Well, honestly, I think an understanding of your instrument to start with. And I have to say, I don't really care that much. If it allows me, I can tinker around on a guitar and a piano well enough to be able to find my way into a melody and express myself. And then I hand it off to people who can really make it come alive. And that's really more than ever. That's what we did on this last album. So, I say I'm not a musician yet. I also, because I'm frankly not working that hard at it, I'm not sure I'll ever become a musician. I think I may continue to become a better songwriter. I hope.
Yeah. Are you quite, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, because I feel an affinity with you in what you're saying there. But do you feel quite lazy when it comes to actual instruments and learning?
Yeah. If it can make a sound, then that's good enough for me. I can pretty much make do with that. Probably to the annoyance of the rest of the band. I think lazy is probably the right word. Yeah.
Yeah. But isn't it about, as well, having said that, you've identified that other people are, maybe technically more brilliant than yourself, or actually able to, take what you produce and take it off in a different dimension. Is it actually just that you're an incredibly creative person then? Because I kind of felt that, and it's actually, I've ended up in a career where I'm a little bit like that as well. Do you know what? When it comes to crossing the I's and dotting the T's in terms of writing, I really can't be bothered about sort of grammar or spelling mistakes or anything like that. But what I want to do is but I'm really good at shooting the ideas out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't go to Catholic school. If you're not bothered by grammar, clearly. Yeah, but well, there's a bit of a contradiction because I'm also extremely specific in when we get to producing, on the back end of it. So, well, when the song is being formed, it's more the spirit that I'm concerned with. When it comes to polishing, I'm a bit mental, I think, and can sit there and polish and polish and polish for weeks or months.
Yeah. Is that actually a problem? Do you actually have to get people to
Yeah,
stop?
yeah. No, I feel like in that way I'm a bit on the spectrum. Like I'll just refuse to sleep sometimes until I get something right. I don't think it's healthy.
Yeah. And someone else is like, David, it's fine now.
Yeah,
Honestly,
exactly. Oh, I feel sorry for the co-producer, fella in Los Angeles. He's a classically trained musician and composer in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
He put up with me. Mackenzie Stubbard is his name, but no,
well done, Mackenzie.
Yeah. Here.
Did you have to ply him with coffee then? Were there long sessions?
Yeah, exactly. We start in the morning. I think a lot of musicians like to work at night, and they get that kind of twilight. It informs the process, but I quite like getting up in the morning now and working during the day, and so yeah, that's how we did it.
Yeah. What started you on the journey then? Because obviously it's more obvious to some people to think, well, if they're learning an instrument and they're beginning to master an instrument, and then they start writing songs out of that, it's kind of more obvious that they might follow that route. But what started you on the journey of writing songs then?
I think it's always been cathartic. Maybe never actually really thought about it. A form of therapy, perhaps, where I think my reflections in the past were more broad, however, and perhaps somewhat inward looking. I don't write like that anymore. I mean, you've heard the new album. It's pretty specific, politically and culturally demanding of its audience. So in my evolution, that's where I've arrived. It certainly wasn't always that way.
So you've become more focused, and so is your message.
More focused, more demanding, more mission driven, if I can use that word.
Yeah, no, that's good. Mission's good. So you have a massive transformational purpose in the world now. Yeah.
It's again, I think it's a way of dealing with, for me, and I won't speak for the rest of the band, but I think that some of them feel the same way.
Yeah.
With what's been going on the last 4 or 5 years, and it seems that entropy has its hooks in everything that's going on these days. To not write songs about the ascension of villains and isolation, it seems unreasonable to write anything else. You will not hear 10 songs about my girlfriend coming from me anytime soon. My wife, I guess, in my case, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So that's interesting. So then if you're writing with that kind of focus, the next question I want to ask you then is, do you find whilst you're in that writing process, do you immerse yourself in the news and everything that's going on, or actually do you struggle with that and do you shut yourself away from it as much as possible?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how it's unavoidable, and especially I think being in New York.
Right, it's everywhere, right?
It's everywhere, but I probably am a news junkie. It's another unhealthy habit. Is probably the first thing I do, honestly, after I open my eyes, is look at the New York Times. I mean, that's not really a good start to the day most days. And so the songs begin to reflect that, and I feel a responsibility to. I mean, and rock and roll is, and I guess our specific kind of rock and roll in this case, I think is a good outlet, a good vehicle for that reflection, that frustration, and a lot of times anger is what I'm feeling.
Yeah. And any music in your family before you?
No, not really. But I had an older sister who introduced me to Peter Murphy probably when I was, I don't know, 10 or 11 years old.
Wow.
And from there, I think I kind of put Guns N' Roses in the bin and started researching that kind of music. Who's Peter Murphy? Who informed him? And then I found Bowie, and then Kate Bush, and from there, really, that's the kind of the center of the wheel, and all the spokes are coming off of it. But I would say Bowie and that lot are at the center.
Yeah. So I'm guessing your sister's older.
She is. Yes.
Yeah, because I can imagine a 10-year-old informing their 10-year-old sibling about such music. But yeah,
she is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about your parents? Were they into music, or were they insipid listeners? Were they just into?
Not so much. I mean, I think from my parents, I remember Bing Crosby's Christmas album. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure I can think of too much else. It's not to say it wasn't a musical household. It just wasn't.
So the only reason you got away with Bowie then is because Bing and Bowie did something together, and that was, you could sidle, Bowie in. Oh yeah, you remember he sang with Bing once.
Yeah, exactly. It's all right because he sang with Bing. Don't worry about him. He's not. Yeah, he's not gonna. I'm not gonna spin off into.
He's not the Antichrist, really. No, it's fine.
Despite what he might have wanted you to think at times.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what about at school? Were you a rebel? Were you, were you an angry young man as well, or were you?
Not as angry as I am now.
Right.
But yeah, I think so. I went to Catholic school. I learned grammar.
Okay.
And,
yeah. Well done.
And by the time I was leaving there, I was done with it. I knew what this is going to sound harsh, but I knew what I didn't want to become.
Yeah. Did it put you off institutions full stop?
Yeah, probably. I think that's getting into my psychosis a bit, but probably any kind of rejection or allergy to institutions may well have started there.
Yeah. Well, that's fair enough. In terms of when this was written, when did you write this music?
Right before the pandemic. So we started, I guess that would have been in 2019, and we wrote quite quickly. In fact, if the songs didn't work within 3 minutes, we put them in the bin. That was it. So they came together quickly, and then, like I said, I polished them for quite a while after that.
Yeah.
In fact, the next single, Come Out of the Dark, I only wrote the keyboard line, and then it kind of inserted it back into the song. Just 3 months ago. So it really was still kind of tinkering.
So did the pandemic actually sort of accelerate your polishing?
It allowed for me to
not worry about whether you were polishing or not.
Yeah. And I think I was able to procrastinate a bit. At some point, I think we all realized that it was going to last for a while. And when I thought the album was going to come out in 2020, and that kind of felt soon. I wanted to spend a little bit more time with it, but
not necessarily that much time.
But not necessarily 2 more years, though. Looking back, the timing's right. Frankly, the way that everything worked out, I wouldn't really have been ready to perform it until this summer anyway. So in that way, it was strangely kind of a blessing.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to quite a number of artists that wrote albums just before the pandemic, and then have been to some extent sitting on those albums for a while, ready to release them. And as you say, may have gone back and reworked on them, etc. But has the last 2 years, given this as a body of work, have the last 2 years suddenly, seemed to echo something from the album as well, even though the album wouldn't be anything about the last 2 years?
Absolutely. I think we were lucky in that way. But, writing about, it's very topical, isn't it? A lot of the songs, and kind of the forces at play and the barriers, the hurdles that we're all facing are they're only higher. They're more extreme now than they were even 2 years ago. So, songs that are about, like the next single is a rejection of isolation. It just so happens that, we all ended up feeling isolated and had no choice in the matter. So yeah, it's just as fresh, I think, topically today as it was when, we kind of wrapped up. Most of the lyrics were on paper 2 years ago, but I don't think they've rotted at all.
No, well, that's very topical, especially given this week where people are thinking about mental health, and the topic being around loneliness this year as well. So that kind of, the two things go together: isolation, loneliness. Who are the other people on this record? Tell us about some of them.
Old friends, actually. It's kind of a band that was pulled together from other bands that I played with when I was in my 20s around New York, with the exception of a couple of newcomers who are the rhythm section. Brian Garby is the drummer, and Grant Parker, the bass player. They are both true musicians, masters of their craft. And I think when starting a band, or especially with a very rhythm-oriented album, which this is, to have pros as the battery, the drums and the bass, only made sense. And I feel like they're so good that I feel like I can be clumsy, which is very liberating.
Are you a good salesman then?
I must not be terrible at it. I don't consider myself one, but
no. Good. Or what is it about you, do you think, that means you can draw these good musicians in?
I have.
Is it the quality of the songwriting?
I hope so. It's. I think a lot of it was
it's partly that, and partly your, the fact that you're a bit of a visionary as well, and you've got something that you want to say, and that allows them to buy in as well.
I know it's a really good question that we should ask them, but I definitely did not approach them and say, "Hey guys, I'm going to write these political songs," because I'm really pissed off, and Trump and that. So why don't you meet me in the studio and let's see if we can cathartically dispel all of this messiness.
But do you think you have to tell people that, or do you think people just get a sense sometimes when they're around someone that's got something to say, that this guy's got something about them, that they actually what they're doing is, maybe it's an authenticism or something like that?
I think that's probably a pretty good conjecture. Maybe I came across as taking myself seriously, which I try not to, but at least I was taking the project seriously, and maybe that was enough for them.
Yeah, well, I think that's important for true musicians, because otherwise it's so easy for them to just waste their time.
Yeah, absolutely, it's true. God knows, I've done it.
We've all done it.
Yeah,
haven't we? So in terms of this record, you wrote it just before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Looking back at it now, is there anything you would change?
No.
Good.
I only wish we had more time together. We wrote 10 songs. We wrote 10 songs in 10 minutes, Graham, basically. And
that's amazing, isn't it?
We wrote 10 3.5-minute songs in a total of 25 minutes.
Yeah.
So I feel like there was maybe an opportunity for more material. But I think that the pandemic partially informed that. I mean, maybe we would have kept going. And I'm not sure that I'm going to revisit this style of music again. So
that's interesting. Already you've decided that you might not.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know. I'm not sure how to follow it up. I haven't really thought about it, but we get lumped into, are often called like post-punk or goth even, which I find quite funny. And if we are, one, we weren't trying, which that might be very punk rock, right? To be a goth, but not have been trying to be goth. The music perhaps sounds that way. I don't think we would try to
try to stick with that genre again. It served a very specific purpose. It fit with the topics. And so, it's not a gimme that we would continue, doing it exactly as we have.
Yeah. Was it informed by any listening from your end? Were you listening to any of that stuff prior to writing this?
Yeah. At times, I was listening to a lot of classical music and have been for the last 2 or 3 years, which actually is very punk sometimes and very goth, extremely goth, actually, more goth than Bauhaus
than goth.
Yeah, like Visigoth.
I'm certain that Beethoven had really had the makeup and all that.
I know. I heard Sibelius had purple hair, right before. Yeah. When he was he was kind of going through his Ziggy Stardust period. But no, what was the question? No, I think
what you're listening to? What were you listening to?
Oh, yeah. So we would do how we kind of approached forming these songs is I would play literally 5 seconds of a song, one that they couldn't identify, the rest of the group. And it's not so much that we would try to sound like that song by repeating it, but 5 seconds is enough if it's a good song, to kind of get the mood of it, the spirit and the energy.
Yeah.
And that is what we would take. We would bottle up.
Oh, you're muted. There we go. Let's get him off again. There we go. We knew that was going to happen at one point.
Oh, I know. Sorry. I can turn this down a little bit.
Right.
Maybe that helps.
So you bottled it up. Yeah.
Bottled it up.
And
and then we kind of taken those 5 seconds of a Bauhaus song or a Sibelius song or an Iggy Pop song. We would try to emulate that energy that we took from those 5 seconds. Yeah. And that's how we came up with 8 or 9 of the songs on the album, I think.
Again, I can completely concur with that, because it does sound like how we used to write when I was young and in a band years and years ago. I'm not like yourself. I wouldn't classify myself necessarily as a musician because my playing is dreadful.
Yeah.
And someone actually asked me about it the other day, and they said, "So, but you play a bit of guitar?" And I said, "Yeah, but the only reason." Well, I'll tell you. I started life singing, and I only started singing because I started writing words when I was 14. I wrote prolifically all the time. It goes back to what I do now. I just wrote. And I sang in, because my parents took me to church. I sang in church and things like that, and school assemblies and whatever else. But nothing. And I enjoyed singing. But yeah, it wasn't until some friends that were really getting into being musicians. One friend said, come round and have a listen to us. Mm-hmm. And I said, "Oh, you need words." And I said, "I've got hundreds of them." Who's going to sing it? I'll do that. And that was it. That was my launch into doing music.
What was the band called?
Right back then, the band was called XL.
Okay.
Literally XL, like a fat man's t-shirt.
Right.
Like I am now. But and I'll tell you, we had a famous drummer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Our drummer was Troy Miller, who, if you look up Troy Miller now, he's done rather well for himself. He was Amy Winehouse's drummer.
Okay.
He's played for just about everybody on the planet. Clever chap. Anyway, he's doing well. Hi, Troy, if you're watching. But I didn't play guitar until much later, around sort of 21, something like that. And it was literally because I got to the point where I had songs and I wanted to get them out there. So I picked up an instrument. But I had no intention of learning other people's songs or anything like that. It was a bore to me. Right?
Yeah. That sounds very familiar. Yeah.
To this day, I don't think I can play anybody else's songs.
Why would you want to?
Well, and I'm not sure I can play mine either.
Yeah. So and that's it, and that's interesting. Again, people are going to ask you this because people ask me. I know some chords now, obviously, but other than that, if people ask me half the time what I'm playing, I have no idea. Do you?
You mean as far as like the note or the chord?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I might have to look down at my fingers and get reacquainted with the neck in order to identify.
But if someone said, "Can you change the key of that? Can you just change the key of that? Can you just go, oh yeah, I'll start playing this whole song in a different key"?
Only laboriously,
Right.
with great effort, yes. And I might need a pen and a piece of paper to make a little chart first.
You're better than I am then.
Oh, okay.
Well done.
Thanks. I mean, well, I'll keep
You're
it up
on you're on that journey, on that scale.
Yeah.
Of 0 to 10. If I'm a 1, you're probably 4 or 5 now.
And
that's
if
great.
Jimi Hendrix is a 10,
yeah,
and you're a 1, I might be a 1.5 then.
Well, there we go. Okay. But that's we'll get there eventually. Okay.
Yeah.
And when we all get to heaven, apparently we can all play guitar anyway. So
it's harp, isn't it?
Oh, is it? Well, we won't know.
That's all right. No.
we might not even care.
As long as I don't have to carry it around.
Oh, can you imagine?
Think of that.
No, yeah. No, but I think it's interesting because I think so many people assume that to create music, you have to be this proficient musician, and yet actually sometimes I'd say that nothing but could be further from the truth. I obviously know proficient musicians, people like Troy, who can write amazing music. Okay. But I've worked with very proficient musicians and I've tried to get them to write anything and they can't. They can play anything, but they can't write anything.
Yeah.
You found the same?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure which is better, but as a writer, obviously I prefer my way, but I think you're right. I mean, perhaps we're somewhat unbound because we don't really know what we're doing, and therefore what rules do you follow if you don't even know the rules?
Yeah.
So maybe it's a bit of an advantage, and of course in this kind of music too. I mean, let's admit it. It's I will give credit to some of the instrumentalists in the band, but the songs themselves structurally are not, terribly demanding.
Who needs a terribly demanding structure?
Not me, and not to get across the point.
The point that you needed to make. So I'm interested in two things. One is going forward. You said that you may have already cerebrally left this type of music and might be focusing on something else going forward. So let's ask you, what are you listening to at the moment? Because that might be what comes next.
I think I was listening to some XTC yesterday.
Good choice.
Yeah. But no, I approached this album as if it would be my last, because it might be. And so that's another reason why, there were a few things that I felt like if I was going to do just 10 more songs, that there were a few topics, nothing would be off limits. There are a few things that I had to say, or I felt like if I was being honest, which I think is the key to being a good songwriter. If I'm being honest, then this is what I have to write about.
I like that approach. Do you think, in a way, don't you think every artist should approach every album like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as a listener, if I detect that there's any acting going on, then I'll reject it. I mean, I don't even have time for it, frankly. Yeah. So, and I think, and that's the reason why I'm pulled towards certain writers, like XTC. There is absolutely no bullshit in those songs. Every word is placed very particularly, and the messages are nuanced and well thought out. And I'm not saying that there's no room for kind of saccharine pop music,
Just these days in my life, there isn't.
No. And actually, let's face it, we just say skip and all of the time today's ones anyway.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that is the beauty of stream music these days. I mean, we could go into an argument about that, but the one beauty is if it comes on and you don't like it, you can just skip it.
Yeah, I only, to be honest though, my house is vinyl only. That's the rule. There aren't too many rules, but that's one of them.
Yeah, that's a great rule.
Yeah.
So
there's a turntable in every room. At least there will be.
Okay. So is this coming out on vinyl then? This must be. Yeah?
I hope so.
Because otherwise it breaks your own rule, doesn't it? In a way.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure that I'd be that bothered by it because I think the chances of me sitting down and listening to this record are pretty much nil. I've heard it enough, But yeah. I would like for other people
to hear the experience for other people, you'd like them to hear it in that way.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Come on. If someone wants
certainly to not SoundCloud anyway.
No. Well, exactly. So if someone wants to fund this to be on vinyl, please do it. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Because that's how David would like people to hear it.
I couldn't thank you for I couldn't say it better myself.
Yeah, there we go. One final thing before we go, and it's something I ask most people that come in, is if you could work with one artist, alive or dead, it may be even a classical artist, from what you said, who would that be?
Work with, not meet or have a pint with, I guess.
That you could meet and have a pint and maybe do some tunage at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I'd kind of like to have a pint with Elvis. I'm not sure how well we'd work together, though. It's mostly that I just want to hang out in his house in Graceland. When you walk through the place, there are so many closed doors, and I had more questions when I left than when I showed up. So I think purely for the experiential, even if what we come up together is complete rubbish, which it probably would be, I'm not sure that Elvis and I would see eye to eye compositionally. I just want to hang out at Graceland and have a key to all the rooms.
You reckon after a couple of pints and a pie, he might actually let you in there. He might do.
Yeah.
I think that
it might be a lot more than a couple of pints and a pie. I think Elvis liked the party.
I think he certainly did. I think you might be surprised, actually. I think Elvis might actually be quite into what you're doing.
Really?
Yeah, I actually reckon he might. Yeah,
I like to think so. That's a nice spot.
let's leave that there. I think that's cool. And anybody you would actually, from a music standpoint, want to work with, or maybe a producer.
Oh yeah, well there are so many producers that I think would be cool to work with. Youth comes to mind. I think Tony Visconti is still kicking about. It'd be nice to meet him in the studio for a week and see what comes out.
And that would be great for the stories as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we'd love to know what went on in Berlin.
You're assuming that everybody remembers.
I don't think they do. And actually, listening to the different interviews that have come out over the years, it seems that they all had their own opinion.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's probably clouded by something,
Yeah, I'm sure.
But yeah, it's quite. But they all do have an opinion, as to what actually went on. So
he might be the last man standing. So it's really only his opinion. It's his story is all that exists anymore.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Oh well, that's fantastic. I'm so glad that you had time to spend talking to me this afternoon. If people want to hear London Playing, where are they to go?
Google it. It's going to be everywhere. I don't know. Perhaps in the YouTube link we can link to it. But there are 1, 2, 3 songs out from the 11 song album right now. Forth is coming out next week. That's Come Out of the Dark along with a video. So yeah,
I mean,
please.
look, Shauna will be listening to this. Hi, Shauna, and should be putting links in all over.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Hi, Shauna. Thanks, Shauna.
She's such a
good. There are videos for the other 3 songs on
good
YouTube.
Fantastic, David. It's been an absolute pleasure meeting you. Thanks.
Likewise, Graham. Until next time.
Yeah.
Cheers.
And if you're ever this way, we'll get the guitars out and we'll compare notes and just see.
I don't even need 6 strings, man. Like just whatever's laying about.
Just one, actually, isn't it?
Yeah. That works. Yeah.
It does. I mean, look, just to get started, one is fine. 2 maybe, because so you get a little bit of harmony over the top. But
sure.
That's all you need.
And a tambourine will be off.
And a tambourine. That was it. Thank you very much. Someone's just said that was great. Well, you're absolutely welcome. Yeah.
Take care.
Take care. See you soon. Bye for now.
Bye.